What is going on, Florida State family, Seminole Nation, and the 863 tribe? This is your boy POLK, a.k.a. a.k.a. the goddamn truth. Haven't done one of these in a little minute. You are on episode 107 of the Hangover, and I think we might have might have a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation today, but it might not go where you guys think it's going to go. So that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to talk about Norvell, what's next, not just for Norvell, but for this program. How do we right the ships? What are some of the things that need to happen? What are some things that I would do? But obviously, we're going to talk about what is the realistic outlook? Like, what are some realistic changes that can possibly happen that may not happen during the season, but during the off season for sure. Realistic coaching moves, realistic things that potentially happen here to right a ship that is really headed in the wrong damn direction. And how did we even get here in the first place? So as always, guys, hit that like button, subscribe and share the video. Let people know we are live. This is kind of a last minute impromptu thing, but I had ideas in my head. They came to me. I jotted them down and I said, I got some time today. Let me put it down on a video or a live stream and let's get it cracking. So that's what I'm going to do. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitch. You obviously on 863 Seminole TV, the most interactive place for the Florida State football fan. And Facebook and X. Those are the platforms you can follow me at. And without further ado, we got to do our roll calls. We got to get in here, hit that like button, pay them bills, ring my doorbell, all that good stuff before you come in here. I don't care who you are, whether you're a Miami fan, a Clemson fan, because by the way, we do play Clemson this week. It's Clemson week, and I could honestly care less about it being Clemson week. I don't know about the rest of y'all. We play Clemson this weekend, and I could care less. Florida fan, whoever you are, before you get in my comment section and try to talk, you got to pay the bills. So let's get a roll call real quick, man. And again, like I said, I ain't going to waste too much of your time today. We won't be on for 2 hours or whatever. We'll probably get a quick hour and 30, if that. But let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about the topics that we have. But before we get into all of that, quick roll call. My man's in the building. Hold on. Let me change that. I get tired of my default settings changing every time I get online. We'll go with that one. Matches the background. How about that? Postano in the building. I always never say the name right. Doesn't matter. Mike Myrick in the building says Mike got us in a hot damn mess. He's got us in a mess. That's what he has us in. ML 1219. Ben Faust. Richard Prite. Almighty Finn, Kenny Ken, New King Vontae, and KCS all in the building. What's going on, man? Again, in the comment section to get this roll call. If not, that's okay. We're going to continue on without you and get into this conversation piece. I'll wait a little bit. Noel Squad's in the building. He says, fire, Mike Norvell. That's all I can say on that one. That's all I can say on that one. Fire Mike Norvell. I ain't saying I'm disagreeing with you. I'm just, we'll talk about it, man. We are going to talk about it. We are going to talk about it. Okay. Won't waste no more time. You don't want to get in the chat again. Hit like, subscribe, share, all the good stuff. Let's just start off with the news, with some news and notes. Malik Clark, wide receiver, 6'2", 183-pound wide receiver, 4-star out of South Carolina. He's the number, according to the composite, 238th player in the nation. He has decommitted from the Seminoles. Quite frankly, I don't care too much to talk about a bunch of recruiting, but I do just want to get these things out here. Since Florida State has started the season, they have lost Javion Hilson, Myron Charles, and now Malik Clark. They have, however, picked up commitment from Byron Lewis. Take from that what you will. The point is, I said it week 2. I pretty much said it after Georgia Tech, but definitely when Boston College happened, I said, oh, you can pretty much throw this recruiting class in the trash can. You've lost Malik Clark, Myron Charles, and Javion Hilson. I think most people would expect more to follow as the season continues because, well, where are the wins? Where are the wins? Where are the feel-good moments for any recruit? Solomon Thomas continues to tweet out like if he's 100% locked in. As Malik Clark left, he tweets out, lost another soldier, and then the kebab emojis, whatever. Look, man, I don't expect Solomon Thomas in the class. I'm just being honest with y'all. I will be shocked if when it's all said and done, he signs his letter of intent to Florida State. I will be 100% shocked. 100% shocked. And this isn't a recruiting pod or anything like that, but I'm just getting my thoughts out. What's up, Todd Pope, NK Sports Mart? What's good with y'all? I think this class is going to be one of the worst recruiting classes in the history of this university. If you look at the way it's trending and what the problem isn't that you're losing recruits, in my opinion. The problem is that your board is almost non-existent. FSU put themselves in a position this season in terms of recruiting that if they missed out on all their top, you missed out Javion Hilson, the linebacker, the Perry, all these top guys that you miss out on. There's nothing there. I think that's the concern for me anyway. That I think this recruiting class is shaping up to be one of the worst we've ever seen in this program's history. I wholeheartedly believe that if this continues, and somebody can convince me otherwise, I don't know. I don't know how it doesn't continue, but maybe it doesn't continue. We'll talk about some of that stuff going forward. But yeah, it's kind of like the news and notes, and then of course, the big news this week: Brock Glenn, and we're going to talk a little bit about this too. I want to get this off my chest. Brock Glenn is being named the starter against Clemson. Now, we've been calling for this for a while, but I must be honest with you. I am less than pleased with the way this all played out. I am less than pleased by the way this played out. You are going to thrust Brock Glenn once again. The first time, not so much the first time you can give Norvell and company a pass. JT gets injured. That happens. Tate Rodemaker essentially quits on the team. Didn't see that coming. So Brock Glenn kind of gets thrust into the whole Louisville, Georgia fiasco. Well, in Louisville, Rodemaker suffers a concussion. The Florida game is ruled out for Louisville. Again, he's thrust into the fire once again. The biggest problem I have with this is this was so avoidable. After Boston College, everybody, don't just listen to me. Go listen to anybody with any type of football sense. They looked at the product and said, this is not going to get better with DJ as the quarterback. What is the point? What is the point? And sure enough, it never got better. This was so avoidable because by everybody's eye was like, oh, okay, we should probably make a change at quarterback. Everybody else is kind of making changes. It's pretty apparent that this offense lacks confidence, is out of sync. doesn't communicate well, whatever you want to say, the offense wasn't doing it. And then you could have you had a bye week and really Cal, Memphis. You had a bye week and it's not necessarily tough teams to get Brock Glenn in the mood, in the groove, ready, possibly have the game, come to him better. You had, my point is, you had ample time to get him ready for Clemson, and you did what? Stuck with a guy who literally has no future in this game or on this team, and now you're blaming it on an injury. I think that's another part that really bothers me, is that they're sitting him and calling it because of an injury. I guarantee you, if FSU was 4-1 instead of 1-4 or 5-0, I guarantee you he'd be taping his hand up and playing against Clemson. I 100% guarantee you DJ Uiagalelei could play against Clemson if he wanted to. 100% guarantee it. Instead, we're going to cop out, sit him, which at this point, we better not see him again the rest of the year. I'm just going to be honest with you. You might as well, at this point, you're going to throw Brock Glenn into the fire that is the Clemson Tigers. Frankly, play him the rest of the way. I just think it's unfortunate, and it's what I have written down here. If I just be honest with you and look at everything that's happening now and everything in hindsight, Mike Norvell has continued to exercise quarterback malpractice his almost entire time here at this university. Thank God Jordan Travis proved everybody wrong, because I mean everybody remembers what the narratives were against Jordan Travis when he was first coming up. January man, what's good? Everybody remembers the narrative around Jordan, bro. The beat was reporting that Jordan Travis couldn't throw the ball 5 yards. Like, those were legit reports that this man couldn't throw the ball 10 yards. So we went out there. We got Mackenzie Milton, who, I will admit it, I thought that was a good move. Like, I will admit that. Like, I was wrong, but I will admit that, right? But Mike Norvell has continued to show quarterback malpractice. No Tate Rodemaker, Chubba Purdy, AJ Duffy. So those are just the guys that you've recruited. Those are just the guys you recruited. Then, of course, you brought in Mackenzie Milton, DJU. A lot of FSU struggles is the fact that we haven't had a quarterback outside of Jordan Travis. Once Jordan Travis actually figured it out, all of a sudden the team got good. Remember, Jordan Travis figured it out pretty much after starting, 0-4? And then that Syracuse game is like something clicked. And from there on out, Jordan Travis was clicking. But Mike Norvell has never had anything outside of Jordan Travis at quarterback. Quarterback malpractice. I got it written down right here because when you literally look at his tenure here, and I don't like to say, well, if you take away Jordan Travis, but in a way, he inherited that. Not in a way, he did inherit that. So if you take away Jordan Travis, let's say for the sake of argument, Jordan Travis, my bad, guys. You got a weirdo in the chat. So I had to take care of that. Let's say Jordan Travis has a good relationship with, Taggart, and leaves when Taggart gets fired. How does this program look? I don't know. Interesting conversation to have. Quarterback malpractice, man. And I think Brock Glenn is about to be another victim of that. I hope not. I really do. I really hope not. I really hope. I have no look, the Clemson game is not going to go great for him. I'm as much as I want Brock Glenn to succeed, Clemson game is not going to go great. But I believe you have a bye after Clemson. Maybe you shake the dust off after Clemson, you regroup, and you can get this confidence in Glenn. Like maybe we can go from the Clemson game, which is really why I want DJU to play. I want DJU to get his ass whooped against Clemson, and then you start Brock Glenn with the bye week, which is what we should have did 4 weeks ago. But that's neither here nor there. That's the big news regarding Florida State so far this week is quarterback decommits, all the good stuff. Let me check the chat real quick, make sure I'm not forgetting any. Akeem, what's going on? Kurisu, what's up? Mike is just watching out for his what? NFL. NFL. What? I don't know about. I don't quite know about that one. NFL. Yeah, he said sarcasm. He said sarcasm. If you're calling an upset against Clemson, go for it, bro. I'm with you. If you don't hurt yourself grasping for those straws. You're right. Let's do it. Let's continue the conversation. So I talked about the quarterback already and how it's legitimately, again, if you look at the whole, Jordan Travis, like, I hate to be that guy. So one of the arguments I used to hate was the whole Jimbo Fisher without Jameis conversation, because in a simple way, okay, you're correct, but Jimbo Fisher brings, like, he recruits Jameis. So then how can you take that away from Jimbo Fisher? But in this case, you might have a legit conversation to be had because Norvell didn't bring in Jordan Travis. Now, the only thing I can say to Norvell's credit is he didn't get rid of Jordan Travis either, probably when he could have had the chance. Because he did do that, with James. He did move on from James Blackman, but he didn't do that with Jordan Travis. So that's probably the only benefit of the doubt I could give Mike Norvell is that, okay, you actually stuck with him. But, man, the names around, everything around Jordan Travis has been pretty disgusting as far as the quarterback position goes at this point. This brings it to the next point, though. The recruiting malpractice on this program has been, and again, I think you've recruited well at certain spots. I thought last year's class was pretty good. But over the years, I have personally, routinely, what have I criticized? That front seven recruiting. I've scrutinized the front seven recruiting since I've probably had this channel, because it hasn't been good. And I feel like this is the first year that it's came back and really bit you in the ass, because you were able to, it kind of looks lucky at this point that you were able to go from Jermaine Johnson to Jarrett Verse. Also, Keir Thomas, you can probably put in that mix, right? Tatum Bethune in that front seven. Like, those four guys probably patched up a lot of what happened as far as missing out. It also helped that COVID, keeps a guy like Fabian Lovett around longer. So he can give you good depth. How could I forget about Braden Fisk? How many teams have a track record of hitting on Jermaine Johnson Jarrett Verse, 2 first rounders, and Braden Fisk, who probably should have been a first rounder. Those last two, those patches really covered what was ultimately, and I said it earlier this year. I said, I think what you're seeing on the front seven defensively, I think you could kind of see this coming from a mile away, unless Marvin Jones Jr. was the next in that line. And obviously he has not been. He has not been Jermaine, Jarrett, or Fisk, obviously. And now you're seeing a lot of it get exposed. You're seeing that your linebackers, once Bethune and Deloach left, were almost non-existent. The recruiting malpractice in the front seven needs to be studied and analyzed, how these guys got away with it, quite frankly. There's really not and I already talked about quarterback malpractice, which can also go in a way, it doesn't really go towards quarter. So this is what I will say about the quarterback recruiting. You actually sign guys. Purdy was a 4-star. Duffy was a 4-star. They were all pretty solid guys in terms of their rankings coming out of high school. That leads to the question of who's developing the quarterbacks. Because how is it that, think about it for a second last year. Why is it that Brock Glenn even had to play? A.J. Duffy is on. The crazy thing is we forget that Duffy was on last year's team. And the fact that Duffy couldn't get, that they had to go with Brock Glenn over A.J. Duffy is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. You got to question the quarterback development. Either it's the development or it's the evals. They're either evaluating that position completely wrong, or they're not developing them at all, or a combination of both. Quite frankly, it could be both. It could be that your evals suck, and then when you get them on campus, you can't do nothing with them. This leads me to the offensive line. And this leads me to so O-line is very interesting because, again, this is a position group that was god awful when this staff gets here, and the focus was really on switching it around. I think the evals, we talked about, again, we're still talking about recruiting right now before we move on. I think the evals on the offensive line have been disgustingly bad. Again, I have to look at O-line the same way I looked at quarterback. In one class, Florida State, you brought in Dontre Richardson, Armella, all same class, by the way. Early, Sapp. I'm writing them down off the top of my head. Charlton. And Woody. Now, Woody is a tweener. We weren't quite sure if they were going to use him as defensive tackle or offense. So you can be nice and take Woody away from this conversation, or you can be, doesn't really matter. I'll be nice. Let's just say I take Antavius Woody out of that conversation for the time being. That's still a class of 5. Now, this is the class. The reason I'm bringing this particular class up, because this is the class that I think Atkins makes his name off of, should have made his name off of, and at the time had made his name off of. Because anytime you sign 5 offensive linemen in one class, now everybody's not going to hit. Everybody's not going to hit. But out of 5 players, what's the best case scenario? Best case scenario? I don't know, 4 or 5. Let's just take a look at the names. Dontre Richardson, 3-star. Armella, 4-star. Early, 4-star. Sat, 4-star. Charlton, essentially a no-star. But we'll talk about Charlton here in a minute. And then Woody was a 3-star, if I'm not mistaken. But again, we're not even counting Woody into this conversation. 4. So let's say out of those 4 stars, 2 hit. So if you get 2 out of the 5, I guess is that a good ratio? Maybe Charlton or Richardson will eventually come around. Like 3 out of the 5 is probably the best case scenario, right? Is all your blue chip guys are actually blue chip guys and eventually get snaps. Here's the problem. Here's what I really want to get to. This class should have yielded more results. Now, to be fair, Early looks like a player, but for some reason we don't keep him on the field. At the SMU game, guess who once again was your highest rated offensive lineman? Take a wild guess. Yet we continue to throw 63. Yet we continue to throw 63 out there. That's a whole nother conversation. I want to stick to what I'm saying right here. Early seems to possibly be a player. And of all those names I've named, there's only 2 guys left on this entire roster from all those guys. Rich, transfer. Sat, transfer. Woody, transfer. And of course, Charlton. Now, Charlton was the interesting pickup, because he wasn't a highly rated guy, but he had some very interesting offers for some interesting programs. And he was a huge individual. He was one of those guys. And offensive line is a different recruiting. There's different ways to recruit O-line. O-line, not so much about chasing stars necessarily, in my opinion. What you want to do with offensive linemen is look at what you got and the athleticism that matches it. Meaning, if you got a 6'5", 340-pound offensive lineman that moves athletically, well, in my mind is if I can get him to lose 30 pounds and he's already an athlete at 340 and I can get him down to 310, I might have a player here. Or there's another way you look at O-lineman and go, this guy's super athletic at 280 pounds. Can I put 20 pounds on him and he keep that athleticism? There's 2 different ways to kind of recruit it. You usually got some coaches recruit, kind of the undersized guy and put weight on him. Some want to get the oversized guy and take and shed weight off of him. I don't know if there's a right or wrong method to it. I just think it's a preference thing. You can have your opinion in the comments. Charlton was obviously a guy that was overweight, and they thought to themselves, okay, we can work with him. He didn't stay on the roster long enough to get worked with. Dontre Richardson didn't stay on the roster long enough. Quayshawn Sapp never stayed on the roster long enough. In that class, how do you lose? Not only do you lose everybody, you lose the majority of the class. You never yield a single result from any one of these players other than Early. And Armella can't see the field, which means he may be a bust. I would hate to say that. I would love to see what he could be eventually, but he may be a bust. So, recruiting, man. And then outside of this class, what has Alex Atkins given us? Outside of this class, what has Alex Atkins given us? Charlton was medically disqualified. He may have been. That doesn't mean he wasn't kicked off the team. They give guys medical disqualifications all the time and don't nothing be wrong with them. That's just the way a lot of times to get guys off the football team. Maybe he was really hurt. But anyway, the point is, nobody on that roster stayed. Nobody on that class stayed. And then you look at the other classes and you go, well, you haven't had one guy that has been a semi-instant impact guy. So you haven't recruited one offensive lineman that can give you snaps right away. And I would argue most of the times you don't want offensive linemen taking snaps right away. So that's fine. But you got guys on this. You got offensive linemen that just can't see the field. Bryson Estes can't see the field. I thought that guy was going to transfer by now. He can't see the field. Well, I don't know what he's still on the team for. So everything Alex Atkins has done on the offensive line has been patchwork. Demetri Emmanuel, Dylan Gibbons, Jeremiah Byers, Keandre Jones. The only mainstays you've had is Darius, who for most of his career, Darius has not been a starter. This is his first year starting, and man, has that been disappointing. As a guy who thought Darius Washington was really the goods, as a guy who thought Darius Washington might be the best player on this whole team, based off what I saw last year, Darius has been has not been good starting at tackle for you this year. He excelled in his role as a guy who come in and could play multiple positions for you when you needed it. Those have been the only guys that have been mainstays. Robert Scott, who, again, can't stay healthy, so you can't really count him. But I guess he'd be the other guy. What is... So offensively, we're talking O-line recruiting that has really kind of been, again, man, that one class that when you really take a dive into that one class, this is why FSU's O-line is in the position that it's in. You invested 5 to 6 bodies in that offensive line, and you got zero. You literally got maybe a possible out of 6 books. You had 6 books, and you got a possible. And that's Jalen Early, who I'm saying the possible. And I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm Jalen Early and I continue to play the way that I'm playing, and Jeremiah Byers continues to get on the field, why the hell would I stick around? If I'm Jalen Early, and for 2 straight weeks I've been your best offensive lineman, but 63 continues to get snaps and gets holding calls, it just isn't. 63 hasn't been a good player since I saw him in the spring 2 years ago, and I told everybody, and people were like, no, 60. I know what I saw when I saw it. If I'm Jalen Early, why would I not transfer somewhere else that would possibly seem to value my skill set? Because obviously FSU does not. Front 7, malpractice. On an offensive line, dare I say, has been recruiting malpractice. And that's, I think, why you find yourself in the position you find yourself at 1-4. Because your skill positions have been recruited very well. Of course, quarterback too. So when you don't recruit the quarterback position well, and you don't recruit the offensive line well, damn, you don't have an offense as far as I'm concerned. You can have Randy Moss at wide receiver, freaking LaDainian Tomlinson at running back, and it won't matter if my offensive line and my quarterback position looks the way it looks. It won't matter. It won't matter. And that's the problem with FSU's offense. And the problem with FSU's defense is his entire front 7. That's one part of the story. Before we continue, I'll read some comments because I've been glancing at them, but I haven't read too many of them. So we're just going to go to the comment section and then we'll continue. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit and let's start from here, where Vontae says he's so disappointed with Duffy. Maybe Tokars isn't what we thought. Maybe. I tried to tell people for years Atkins was kind of overrated. Because it says bust after bust after bust. Armella and Early need to be starters next year. Well, Early for sure. Early, first of all, Early needs to be a starter now. And I got to give Armella the same attention that I give guys like Deuce Span. If you ain't, I don't know. If you ain't seen it now, I don't know what makes me think Armella is going to be a starter next year. Absolutely zero development on the field for our O-line. Everyone got on me when I said on here before the season, if O-line is only slightly better this year, Atkins needs to go. Atkins had recruiting decent out of the portal, but failed in high school recruiting. Best case is Early because a placeholder tackle. Other than that, everyone else didn't pan out. The young guys are more talented than the veterans. Well, there's one young guy that's more talented. I don't know about, don't know about everybody else. John, how are you? How is 63 still on the team? That's a great question. But Ag and smoke cigars looks cool and provide vibes. Fair play. Fair play. It does. Again, this is just me being honest. This is just literally taking the facts, right? And so Sport Mark says the staff misses on evals at an alarming rate. Again, this isn't a narrative. This isn't an agenda. This is simply I'm naming the names that didn't hit, and I'm trying to find names that did hit. Show me the names that have hit. I don't think Sport Mark is off at all with that assessment. For years they've said development. I would love to see. And it's easy to say development of a Jerry and Jones, but how long did it take Jerry and Jones to? If we're developing guys every 4 years, then I think maybe we should look. If that's the case with this team, in that it takes 4 years to get the best out of Ronaldo Green and Jerry and Jones and Kalen DeLoach, then maybe we should just reassess what it is we're expecting year in and year out. And then instead of FSU being a contender every year, we're a contender every 3 to 4 years. If that's the new assessment, if that's the new expectation, if that's the new standard, then it'll make it easier to digest. ML says, I don't get the O-line rotating that Atkins does. O-line can't get in a rhythm and sync. John says, I think Mike needs to let Brock fly. No need to keep the training wheels. Go high, risk reward, Clemson win or lose. Try to get him in possibly ready to beat Duke. Can't believe I just said possibly. Yeah, you did. Good for you. You did. You absolutely did. There you go. Development slow. Let's continue. I caught up in the chat. Absolutely. It doesn't matter, John. It doesn't matter. So with all that being said, man, we talk about recruiting malpractice and just quarterback malpractice and everything that we just kind of summed up here, where we just really looked at offensive line, front seven, right, and all of these things. And the only real positions that you've been able to recruit pretty well is your skill position guys, your corners, your receivers, and your running backs. And the receivers didn't start out pretty either. So now the big question becomes, what is a realistic look at what can be done? What do we do? What can be done? And when I say we, obviously me, I can't do a damn thing about it. But what does the program do? What does the athletic department do? What does Mike Norvell do? What does Mike Alford do? Other than just start Brock Glenn, start Landon Thomas, right? Just I'm not so much talking about on field. Because on field, really the most you can do is start younger guys, do all that stuff. I'm talking about what does the program do after this year? Because the year's a wash. The year's a wash. The year, this year's a wash. So when this off season hits, and you want to keep Elijah Moore, Lil Wayne McCoy on your roster, when you want to keep Kai Bates and Charles Lester on your roster, when you want to keep, some of these guys who are going to be looking like, man, this is some BS. I ain't signed up for this. And we were trash, and y'all still didn't put me on the field. When you want to keep these guys on the right, what do you do? What is it realistically? So when I say realistically, let's Norvell's not getting fired. Okay, we can all, even no matter what you want, no matter what you think, no matter what you you can dream up, fantasize. You can go on College Football 25 and fire him, even though his name isn't even Mike Norvell on that game, and I think FSU's head coach is black on that game. That's neither here nor there. The point is, realistically, you can't fire. He's not getting fired. I believe it's a $60 million or $65 million buyout. This year, he can't get fired, regardless of if I want him to be fired or not. He can't get fired. So there's no point of talking about fire Mike Norvell. Keep the same energy you had for this. You are talking to a brick wall. It's irrelevant. There's no point of talking about firing the man when we know he'll be the head coach next year, and he'll probably be the head coach at least for the next 2 to 3 years, assuming this stuff continues. You kind of stuck with them, just for the simple fact you probably want the buyout to go down a little bit more. I don't know the inner workings of that contract and how how much it decreases year after year. So I can't really say much on that part. But the point is, when I say let's take a realistic look at what can be done, I'm not going to talk about firing the guy that I know can't be fired. As much as I might want to talk about it, it doesn't do any good to sit here and talk about, you know what I'm saying? It's like sitting around talking about what your homeboys, what you would do if Halle Berry walked in the room. You can talk about it all day, but it's stupid because she's never walking in that room with you and your homeboys. It ain't going to happen. So I'm not going to sit here and talk about firing Mike Norvell and then who should be the next head coach, because it's not happening. Now, what are some realistic moves? Before I go into the realistic moves, I'm going to tell you another move that ain't going to happen. As much as I would love for as much as I think this move should happen, I don't think it's going to happen. And I want y'all to guess what move you think I'm talking about. There is a move on this staff that I think a lot of people want to happen, but it's not going to happen. And it might not even be who y'all think it is, but I'm just curious of who y'all think I'm talking about. And I'm going to explain why it can't happen. It's not going to be who y'all think. I think I know where some of y'all are going to lean, but that's not what I'm talking about. But I'll give y'all a chance to answer that. Who do y'all think I'm talking about? There's a move on this staff that I don't believe can happen. Let me take it back. It can happen, but it would do more. It would do more harm to this program, in my opinion, if you fired this individual, than it would. Then it will do. Yeah, if you fire him, it'll do more harm. So I'm curious to know who you guys think I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about Odell. I knew I would see the Odell. I'm not talking about Odell. I'm not talking about Odell at all. Give y'all a little bit more time. There's a move, and I'm gonna explain why you can't make this move. And again, I'm not saying I wouldn't do this move. I'm just talking about in a realistic sense why this move can't happen. It's not Odell. I'll give y'all here 30 more seconds, and then we'll talk about it. I'm explaining why you can't make that fire. It's not Odell. It's not Dugans. Okay. Everybody's off except for one person. One person has had it right the whole time. I've just ignored them because they've had it right. You can't fire Adam Fuller. And I know everybody's going to be like, what? I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why you can't fire Adam Fuller. If you fire Adam, let me paint a scenario. Let me paint a scenario for you. You're a car salesman. And you're looking for a new dealership to work at. And you go to this dealership, and the guy you're going to replace, you talk to the boss or whatever, and the guy you're going to replace, you find out that he got fired. And you go, well, what happened? Why did this guy get fired? And he says, well, he doesn't really give you a reason, right? But he shows you his resume. And in 3 years at this dealership, and let's just say it's a Ford dealership. It's a Ford dealership. So these aren't super expensive cars. But in 3 years at this dealership, this man has sold over $1 million worth of cars and has increased his car sales every single year. Would you, as a car salesman, want to work for a man who just fired a guy with that resume in the 3-year span? You can't fire Adam Fuller because Adam Fuller's defense hasn't been the problem. As much as I don't like the way the defense is ran, and quite frankly, if I'm being 100% honest with you, Adam Fuller's defense does not resemble a Florida State defense. There's something that lacks about that defense from a aggressiveness standpoint. Like, I'm with it, right? I'm with it. And there's things about Adam Fuller's defense that I don't like. And me personally, I think we need a better fit as a defensive coordinator, frankly. But regardless of the fact that I don't like it, the facts are his defense has not only improved every year he's been the defensive coordinator at this program, his defense has been better than the offensive. And the offensive is read by the head coach. The defense is the only part of the team that's producing first-round level talent. As a matter of fact, the defenses are the only part of the team that's producing talent in general. We'll take a look at the last draft. Jerry and Ronaldo, Fisk, Verse, Keon, okay, cool. That's a one-year guy. My point is, this is not me taking up for Fuller. This is not me telling you that I want Fuller to be the coordinator, because if I'm being completely transparent, I don't. I would not mind if he got fired tomorrow and we got another guy with a more of a aggressive mentality as our defensive coordinator. What I'm saying is, if you are a coach on the market and you look at Fuller's resume at Florida State, how the hell would you want to go coach for Mike Norvell knowing that this guy got fired and his defense has been the best part of that team? It's improved every single year and was championship level last year. You're not going to hire a guy. Nobody's going to want to coach for Mike Norvell as a defensive coordinator if Adam Fuller's get fired. Now if he gets pushed to another job, that's different. But if you come out and blatantly fire Adam Fuller, good luck hiring another guy. That's all I'm going to say. You can't make that move because you're not going to – there's no coach is going to look at that and go, that's a secure job. I can improve my stats every year and still get fired. That's a secure job. I want to go play for that or coach for that. I just don't believe that's a move you can make if you're Mike Norvell. I think at this point, Mike Norvell, you're stuck with Adam Fuller and you're tied at the hip with that. You can't make – I don't believe coaches aren't stupid, okay? These coaches are not only coaching for the now, they're coaching for their future. They're coaching for job security. They want to know that if they perform, they are going to get not only job security, bonus. All of this stuff is a business at the end of the day. Any coach following Adam Fuller's footsteps, if he got fired, is not good business sense. It's not from my foxhole. It isn't. There's just no way I could see it happening. Not a quality defensive coordinator anyway. Unless you're going to fire Adam Fuller and hire like Coach Surtain from within. Then you could. That's the only caveat I'll have from what I'm saying. If you're going to hire from within, so you're going to fire Fuller and then decide, you know what, we're going to promote Coach Surtain from within, then you can make that fire. Because assumably you would have had conversations with Coach Surtain and that all stuff's going to work itself out. But if you're going to fire Adam Fuller and then you're going to talk about you have to go out and find a guy, I think that's bad business. And I don't think you can do it. So those are the two unrealistic moves, in my opinion. Everything else, in my opinion, is on the table as far as realistic moves go. Every other job should be on the chopping block. Now, again, realistically, are you going to fire every single assistant? Probably not. So we're pretty sure that Patrick Surtain is safe. I think most people would assume that unless he decides to go elsewhere, right? Unless Surtain decides to take another job elsewhere, which the way this program looks right now, I expect Surtain to have suitors at the end of the year. Anybody that's counting Pat Surtain as an automatic lock on this staff, it might come down to firing Fuller and hiring Surtain to be your D coordinator, because I think programs are going to be lined up to try to get him away from Florida State come this offseason. I think that's going to be a thing. I'm not saying he'll take a job, but I wouldn't be shocked if he took a job. Especially if you're telling me that you have to keep Adam Fuller and maybe Surtain and Adam Fuller and their philosophies don't mix. Like there's a lot here. There's a lot here. But that's just if we're assuming everything stands pat, right? No pun intended. Pat Surtain is probably a guy that isn't on the hot seat, obviously, right? He's probably the only one that has like 100% job security, in my opinion. Next on that list would be Odell. I don't think Odell gets fired. If anything, he might get pushed to retirement. But just a flat out, here's your pink slip, don't see it happen. After that, I think everybody else is probably on the chopping block. Me personally, the entire Randy, JP, all that gets fired. And again, I don't think if it was me, Odell would have been fired. They're not going to fire him. But the entire front seven coaching staff should be shown the door. Odell should be sent off into retirement, given his flowers on the way out for sure, but sent off into retirement. And you should completely retool that front seven. That's just on the defensive side. Surtain stays put. I think Fuller stays put just because I think you have to keep him. Again, unless you're going to fire Fuller and promote from within, I think Fuller has to stay, Surtain stays, and then you completely retool your front seven. So that's already 3 assistants, which what does that mean? That means that probably offensively, you're probably not making a lot of staff changes. But what I think you do need to do offensively is either co-OC. What I would do offensively, Chris Thompson is the easy choice, right? The problem is I don't think that's the Mike Norvell choice. I would get rid of Dugans. Yep, I'm going to say it. I'd fire Dugans. I don't know if you fire Atkins or not. If I had to pick between Dugans and Atkins, there's a part of me that I would pick Dugans over Atkins for the simple fact wide receiver recruiting isn't bad. But maybe you can put a bigger recruiting. What am I trying to say? Just put a more impactful recruiter at the receiver position than maybe an offensive line position. But what I do think you need to do is get a co-OC. If you're going to keep Atkins, then you got to get a co-OC. I don't think you can demote Atkins back to just O-line coach. I think that's a bad look for his career. You do at least, if you're going to keep him on the staff, you at least want to take care of him. But I need to get rid of either wide receiver coach or tight end coach. Again, preferably it'd be Chris Thompson for me. I'd keep Dugans and fire Chris Thompson. And what I would then do is get a co-OC. I think those are the realistic moves. I think it's unrealistic to think that you're going to fire the whole staff. But I think about 3 to 4 guys on this staff, I think is a definite possibility. What are you guys saying in the comments? Let me get to the comments and see what y'all saying because I haven't seen it. And tell me, man, tell me what you think about my take on Fuller. Do you think I'm off the mark on Adam Fuller? Do you think I'm pretty spot on there? And some of the other moves that I said, just let me know what y'all think. Brandon says Fuller ain't a bad DC. He just needs players. He's not a bad defensive coordinator. I don't think he's a Florida State coordinator, though. That's my issue with him. And again, if I could fire him, I would fire him. The problem is I don't think you can fire him, at least not if you want another quality guy. Again, unless you're keeping Surtain and you're promoting him from within, that's another good point. You bring in a new guy, maybe he gets rid of Pat. I don't know, maybe not. What's up, Ice Cold? Since I'm not necessarily wanting Fuller to go, I need him to hold the guys under him accountable. Again, I don't want y'all to misconstrue what I'm saying. I would fire Fuller tomorrow. And that's not even because I think he's a bad coach. I just don't think he's a fit for this logo. I don't think his scheme is a fit for this logo. If I could fire him, I would. Again, I want to reiterate. If I was on College Football 25, I'd let the man go. But that's also because I can hire people without the repercussions of firing a guy like that. Other coaches are going to look at an Adam Fuller firing and go, I'm not coaching for that guy. This guy was by far the better coach on that staff in terms of just what he produced on the field, and you let him go. FSU hired a DC from such an elite program would get Fuller out of here. I hear you. I hate giving up third downs as much as we do, but when we get blown out, it's because our offense is garbage. You're spot on with that. Fuller's out, bro. We'll see. We'll see if Fuller's out. I just don't know if that happens. Money talks and BS walks. KCS is a great take. I never understood why the safeties are 20 yards from the line of scrimmage. I'm sure there's a reason, but it always annoys me. Shannon, Odell, Ray, and possibly Atkins. I'm not sold on Atkins' ability to develop NFL caliber talent. NFL caliber lineman. I haven't talked much about this Derek Ray stuff because, in my opinion, I just saw that name and it just sparked something in me. I know if y'all have, obviously, if you're around the FSU spaces and if you're around just FSU social media in general, you've heard that Derek Ray has been absolutely atrocious as, I guess, a GM. The problems on this team are so more. Derek Ray is like 100th on my list in terms of problems on this team. Before I get to that, I feel like the fact that he's been brought to the forefront is, in my opinion, just nasty. And again, I'm not taking up for a guy. I could care less about the guy. But you got people talking about Derek Ray over Randy Shannon, over Odell, over Alex Atkins. Over some of the players that are actually playing the game? Over Kyle Morlock? Like, it's not all on the coaches. Coaches 90% of the problem, I think. But some of these players are absolutely suck and shouldn't be here. That also kind of goes back to the coaches of why are they here and why you keep putting them out there. But Derek Ray is on the far end of list of my damn concerns. That people blaming Derek Ray, he's X, Y, and Z. Bro, he targeted the players that Mike Norvell told him to target. Unless you can show me some physical evidence that Mike Norvell wanted X player and Ray went after Y player, like he's completely undermining the head coach and what he wants. Unless you can show me that, I don't really care about the Derek Ray thing. There's a whole bunch more problems before we get to a guy who's not an on-field coach, a guy who doesn't scheme up any. Like, come on, man, we talking X's and O's, scheme and players, and what Jimmy's and Joe's, and we want to talk about Derek Ray. Don't even get me started on that. I honestly think that's a joke. I actually wouldn't. I would not mind that at all. I hope that would be good. I think that would be good. Again, frankly, if you want that Adam Fuller take I have, if you want to just alleviate that altogether, just hire Surtain from jump. Just promote him. Just promote him from within. If Surtain leaves, I won't be surprised one bit. Again, unless they're going to promote him. There's teams. I'm sure there's programs that are going to be looking at Patrick Surtain. I'll say this. I don't understand why we don't blitz more when we know linebacker safeties either miss their gap, nickel safeties, missing assignments, just all out blitz all game. What about Ernie Sims? He was a former. What about him? I'm not really looking at Ernie Sims in terms of staff changes. He may or may not go, but he's not one of the pivotal pieces that we're talking about here. You know what I mean? That's another point. I think this is actually a pretty decent point here. Florida, who sucks, but Florida's in a better position than you right now. Do you know why? Because they're probably going to make that move. And guess what? Everybody knows that once you make that move, there's a boost of, because there's that new shoe smell, the new car smell, the new shoes. I don't know if y'all watch the Boondocks, but anyway, new shoes. There's going to be a new sense of energy around that program once they fire Billy. Oh, and by the way, they have Lagway. They have some things. It's gonna, and if it's Lane Kiffin with DJ Lagway, I'll be honest with you, I'm scared to death. If it's Lane Kiffin and DJ Lagway, I'll be completely honest with you. If I'm an FSU fan, you should be scared to death if it's Lane Kiffin and DJ Lagway stays. Florida has a brighter future right now than FSU. That's why FSU has to make drastic changes to this staff. They have to make changes to this staff if they want to right the wrongs. They can't pussyfoot around with this. They can't just go out and get rid of a couple. No, I think, like, again, I would love to fire Fuller. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if you're going to fire him and you promote Patrick Surtain from inside, and then maybe Patrick Surtain can hire some of his NFL buddies. Like, I think it's going to take something like that, I think. But I think you should be scared to death of the Gators right now. And I'm not talking on the field, obviously. You jumped all over me when I called for Atkins' ass after the Memphis game. Yeah, because he wasn't there yet. He wasn't there. He was suspended. I was interested to see how him integrating back with the team and FSU's offensive line being a little injured, I wasn't gonna jump to a conclusion. What was Memphis? The third game of the season? We tend to do that too much. But I think when you look at, again, everything that has transpired this year, the fact that I'm watching 63 continue to play and 54 has emerged, and yet 63 continues to play. Like, there are things that have happened since Memphis you know. But if you would like to just say you were right all along, that's fine. I'm not arguing with you. Like, you can be right all along. My opinion has changed as of now. At the time, there were still things I was evaluating. I agree, D. And I agree with this too. I do think one of the biggest criticisms you can have, and it's, again, this isn't just 1 year, 2 years of talking. We're now on year 5 of this. This is 5 years of like data and information. He does seem to have a very G5 mindset. His approach to recruiting, I think, proves that he has a G5 mindset. The fact that he doesn't believe that he needs to get the best players in the country and that he can just get plug guys and develop them. That works at Memphis, because everybody you play at Memphis has the same caliber of guy. It doesn't work at FSU because Clemson's not doing that. Clemson's actually getting real athletes on the field, So, yeah, I agree. Pretty no girl. How you doing, by the way? Good to see you. And that's basically what we were just talking about, Brandon. I think Derek Ray is a scapegoat. I think they've been using Derek Ray as a scapegoat this entire offseason. But that, again, that's just my opinion. I think I'm a little bit behind the. Here, let me catch up in the chat because I don't feel far behind. Let me catch up. So I'm skipping some comments because I'm fast forwarding through the chat, guys. So I was pretty far behind. Okay, so again, we talked about what realistic changes we can make, what moves like we could theoretically make, but ultimately I think like we kind of are where we are. And my back, man, I'm getting old, guys. Don't get old. Don't get old. Jesus. Ultimately, yeah, so the offseason is going to be huge for Florida State, and that's honestly what I'm looking forward to at this point. What is Derek Ray's job? He is the GM, like recruiting coordinator / GM. Again, there's so much more to this wrongs with this football team than that. But anyway, this offseason is going to be key. This offense is going to be absolutely key. This offseason, is going to be a major part on what happens to this program going forward, in my opinion. And again, there's some key changes that have to change. Some of them, I don't think, like some of the changes I think that people want made aren't going to be made because I don't know if you can make them. But there might be some other changes that you can make. But you got to infuse some. You have to infuse guys that resonate with these younger people. You just have to. Especially at the positions of importance. If you want to use the transfer portal to get your running backs and your receivers and maybe plug and play a linebacker or so, or a tight end, I'm okay with that. But we cannot keep depending on guards out of the transfer portal and trying to plug them in on this. We have to start recruiting legit offensive linemen. We have to start recruiting legit defensive tackles. We have to start doing those things, man. We really do. And what I'll finish with is this, and then we'll just kind of close out in the comment section and I get up out of here. But what I want to finish with on this is you ask, what's next for Mike? What's next for Mike Alford? What's next for Mike Norvell? I think that conversation has to happen. I think you're talking about a guy that's not going to be fired. So I don't know. So that conversation isn't worth having. But I think you have to sit down with them. You have to go, look, we have too much money invested in it. FSU has a lot of moving parts right now. That's why this season sucks. Let me tell you what, man, I can keep going on. Another reason why this season sucks so bad. You're renovating a stadium. You're still building a football-only facility, and you're in a lawsuit with the ACC. You've got all these moving parts that's going on. All these things involve major money, and you decide to go 1-4 on the season. So you're not gonna pack the stadium. You've potentially handcuffed yourself in a lot of ways here with the product that you decided to put on the football field. Mike Norvell and Mike Alford have to have a conversation, and that conversation has to be, we can't necessarily fire you right now, but if you want the continued support to be successful, if you want a future in the coaching business, and if I'm Alfred, I got a list, and I'm slapping my list on the table. These guys got to go. No hard feelings. It's a business. It's a job. They're not performing. These guys got to go. And now we need to sit down and we need to figure out our list of guys that we potentially want to bring in, and not some no name. Like at this point, Mike Norvell, you can't just bring in again. And you can't bring in a Tony Tokars at this point. You have to actually go get somebody. You have to get somebody that has some cachet around college football. You got to get in somebody that has relationships in the Southeast. You got to go get some guys, not some no-name group of 5 coach from Wyoming that you think has a promising upside. And ultimately, I think that's the conversation that needs to happen. And I don't know if it will, but this offseason is going to be very newsworthy. I think a lot of people are going to make a lot of money in this offseason in terms of content creators. I think a lot of people are going to be tuned in to Florida State's offseason, because it's going to be one of the most critical off seasons that Florida State has had in a very long time, because year 5 of this is unacceptable. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, your COVID year 1, 2, whatever you want to call those years happen. And there was legitimate, I don't want to call them excuses, but you can call them excuses, but there was legitimate reasons why FSU had to take the steps they had to take to get, but year 5, 1-4, I just did the you can't see me. But anyway, year 5, man, like this, I don't know if I've been so disgusted. This is worse than all that other stuff. This year's been worse, because this is year 5, and you should have a system in place. There should be your caliber of, all these things, man. All these things. Let me get to the comment section, read a few comments, man, answer some questions, whatever, and then I'm gonna get up out of here. Because I actually do have to work today. Because again, y'all remember where I'm at, right? We're almost home, but I'm still on the other side of the world right now. Atkins ain't it at all. His resume gets worse by the game. We'll say that. I don't know how much his G5 mindset, how much we don't close on top players each class. Imagine if we had Hunter. Imagine if we had all of those guys. But I think his G5 mindset is one of the reasons why you don't close on POLK, Bolden, Hunter, and a list of other guys. I think his mindset has a lot to do with that. And it's not just coming from me. You got to listen to other people. He doesn't prioritize necessarily recruiting the top guys aren't important to him. He'd rather recruit his guys. That works at Memphis. That don't work at a place like FSU. I always thought that Derek Ray was going behind. It doesn't make, again, fall guy. I don't care what anybody says. You can have your opinion on it, Sports Mark, and I know you're agreeing. I know you're agreeing with me. I'm just speaking. Like, it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. But everybody's always got to find the fall guy. Y'all talking about Stoops coming up. First of all, again, Mike's not getting fired. And I said this, I think the Stoops train is past. Stoops should have been the guy after Taggart, to be quite honest with you. If you're going to fire Taggart in the fashion that you fired him, and I said this the day it happened, you don't bring in Norvell, you bring in a big name. Unfortunately, we brought in Norvell. And Norvell had some good years, don't get me wrong, but I mean, again, we're here now. So I can only talk about it's not about what you've done, it's what you've done lately. And what you've given me lately is 1-4 and a bunch of bullshit. In a very bleak future, if you really look at it. I don't think Odell is going anywhere. He's been here for 4 different coaches. Someone powerful within FG. Unless I said that, unless he retires, I don't think Odell's going anywhere either. Stoops is a conservative of offense. Stoops is too conservative on offense. Defense would be great, but that's it. Well, it just matters on who he would get as offensive coordinator. It's just about who they get him to replace him. Collab with Liz. I like Sam. Me and Sam have done stuff before. I just be on a different time zone, man. It's hard to try to collab with people, but I definitely fucks with the Listen Up podcast. I think we all are ready to fit. I think we all are ready for the season to be over. They've been saying Odell's going to retire for the last 3 or 4 years, bro. Again, I think ultimately when he leaves, it will be him retiring. I just don't know if it's this year. This year would be a perfect out for it, though. Exactly. I feel like we were talking about Mark Stoops for that train, that ship, that boat, whatever is gone. It's passed you by. It's sailed. It is what it is. Eventually, he will. It's just not this year. Not with a That's not with a $60 million buyout. I'm curious if anybody knows the contract details of how much that goes down year after year or whatever. But as of today, Mike's not getting fired. What's up, John? Mario, I think you're trying to say Mario built Miami the right way. Like, I'm not trying to give nobody no props. But Mario was known as a recruiter from Jump Street, so that is what it is. I'm gonna get back to it, bro, but that's gonna be back when I get to the States. When I get back to the States, I'm gonna get back on those videos. I just don't have the time to invest in creating those videos at this moment. I'll say this about Miami, and a bunch of Miami fans are going to get a comment and talking trash now. Mario has recruited extremely well, but he too has to figure out his quarterback room, because he too has not done very well at quarterbacks. And granted, you got Cam Ward, but that's a 1-year rental. And look at their quarterback recruiting as of up to now. I don't know what the future holds for that position going forward, but it hasn't been great. That quarterback recruiting hasn't been great. I don't know if they have a lot of big-time talent in that room. You got Cam Ward. Congratulations. He'll take you wherever he takes you this year. You'll definitely be competing for a playoff spot, most likely. We'll see if y'all get in there. But after Cam Ward is going to be interesting. Do you go to another portal guy? Is there a guy on the roster? Miami fans are going to tell me, oh, this guy, Emory Williams, is going to come back and he's going to be better than ever, and maybe he will. But I want you to go – we talk about recruiting. I want you to go check Emory Williams' recruiting rankings for that matter. I'm still questioning Miami's quarterback position going forward. So that would be my thing about Miami. Buyout goes down 10 mil a year. Oh yeah, we good. Yeah, we good then. So it'll be 50 mil next year. Hey, you know what? Mike don't figure it out in a couple years. And I know Florida State fans don't want to hear a couple years, but hey. Do coordinators have the overall say of who starts? A great question. I think every team's ran differently, man. I think every head coach gives their coordinators reign to do what they do. You know what I mean? Some head coaches are very off. They manage the overall scope, but they'll have a bigger say so on like positions like quarterback. But some head coaches are just, hey, you run your defense how you run your defense. Some head coaches are in the weeds with everything, whatever works for them. In terms of Florida State, that's a great question. I don't have an answer for you. Go Jeremy Pruitt. Yeah, I will pass. Well, first of all, where is Pruitt at? First of all, that would be my first question. Where is Jeremy Pruitt? What's his job? And then, I said this before and I'll say it again. People don't like it when I say this. Pruitt was very good for us, and Pruitt came into a very ready-made situation, and he brought a scheme that fit that situation. And then he goes, where does Pruitt go to? Bama, ready-made situation. Pruitt's Tennessee tenure really bothers me as a guy that would bring in, like, if you're talking about bringing in Jeremy Pruitt, what he did at Tennessee kind of bothers me in terms of didn't build a team, like a lot of mismanagement with the Vols, especially compared to where they are now. My take on what will happen at the end of this year is a complete staff overhaul. I mean, that's my hope, right? That's my hope. Again, Norvell's not getting fired, so I don't want to talk about that. I don't believe you can fire Adam Fuller, though I would. I don't believe you can unless you're promoting Patrick Surtain to that spot. But it's got to be a complete staff overhaul, and maybe, and this is a big maybe, but maybe you get the right staff and it can kind of, recover some of that recruiting misses. But ultimately, I think this is going to be a very heavy transfer portal offseason, because this recruiting class is about to be this recruiting class is going to be in the dumpster. I'll tell you that right now. This recruiting class is going to be in the absolute dumpster when it's all said and done. I believe that. He's with the Giants as an analyst? Okay, I didn't know that. Get rid of Fuller and figure it out. I mean, I hear you. Again, if you're talking about promoting Patrick Surtain, I'm with that. If you're talking about promoting a guy from the outside, you're going to have a hard time hiring a guy when you just fired a guy who's had the best side of the ball in Mike Norvell's tenure. As much as you want to say you hate Adam Fuller, Norvell's offenses have been worse than Fuller's defenses. And with that said, y'all, I'm going to get up out of here. We did 1 hour and 30. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share. Hit that like button on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Yeah, man, that was the show, guys. I mean, Brock Glenn, we didn't talk much about Clemson because I'll be honest with y'all, I don't care about the Clemson game. I don't care about the Clemson game one bit. Brock Glenn gets the start here as Mike Norvell continues to have quarterback malpractice on this program. You're now putting Brock Glenn in a position to get absolutely killed this weekend. But hey, when you could have pulled him a few weeks ago, or when you could have pulled DJ a few weeks ago and set up Brock Glenn for this moment, you decided to stick with the guy who has zero promise and zero future to this program. Good job, Norvell, on that. Malik Clark South Carolina wide receiver, has decommitted. That's FSU's third decommitment since the season has started. You've lost Javian Hilson, who's a top 50 player, by the way, at a position of absolute need, edge rusher. Myron Charles, D tackle, decommit. So we talked about that front seven recruiting malpractice that I talked about earlier on the show. Yeah, that's still going on. And of course, Malik Clark. Now, you did get a commit from a running back. I think it was after SMU? After one of the games we got, it might have been after the Memphis game. I don't remember. But Byron Lewis has committed since the season started. Shout out to Byron Lewis. And then we talked about recruiting, quarterback. What are some realistic moves? All of that in summary of what we did here on episode 107 of the Hangover. And I will see y'all this weekend, man. I will see y'all this weekend. Y'all already know the tempo of that show. Because I expect it to be 42-7 or something ridiculous like that. So, yeah. But I will see y'all. Y'all know I'm here. I haven't decided if I'm gonna do a pregame yet, but you're definitely gonna get halftime reaction, postgame reaction. I might do a pregame show too, just to talk more about the foolishness. But as always, man. Oh shoot, wait a minute. I got a super chat. Let me hit the super chat real quick, and then let me go ahead and get up out of here. But appreciate that. KCS 85 said, "Be good, Polk. Great show. Bring out the brown bag Saturday." Listen, man. Bring out the brown bags. Because that's what it's going to be. There's going to be an ass whooping on Saturday. More money, more money. Yeah, more money, more money. But as always, man, it is your boy Polk over here on 863 Seminole TV. Stay classy, Seminoles, and we are out here. Go Noles.